This is the Testosterzone Podcast with Noel, Keith, and Steve. And now, brace yourself for greatness.
Hey everybody, welcome back, and thanks again for tuning in to episode 24 and a half of the Testosterzone Podcast. Listen, we were with Adaryll last week where we talked a lot about smoking meats and barbecuing and how one of the important tips and tricks is to let the meat rest.
Absolutely.
Hey, so Adaryll, let's shift gears a little bit because we were talking this morning about kind of why you do this, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
you really feel like this is a way that you, speaking of resting, right? So
Absolutely.
tell us, I'm not even going to steal your fire because you
All
had
right.
some great points. So just tell me a little bit about why you do this and a little bit about other things that you do to do why you do what you do.
Absolutely. So I've been having this conversation with people, and I did ministry in churches for just around 20 years, and I continue to do it, just not in churches anymore. I just with business. And one thing that I've learned about people, no matter who the people are and what walk of life they come from, but Americans are notorious for this, and we're notorious for a lot of things, is we work like dogs. We are all about the rat race. And it's okay. I mean, other countries obviously work hard too. I love going to Japan, man. They get at it, and it's cool. It's good to work hard. It's biblical. It's smart to work hard. I mean, it works a good thing. But one thing that I've noticed when people start talking about, I love everybody. I'm a love kind of guy. And so I want to look at people and not just look at the awful things they're doing, but look at how they were created by God to be.
Mm-hmm.
And one area I noticed that no matter what it is, and no matter where the people are in their faith or no faith, is that, man, people are just working like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do this big time in my workplace, and I had to be coached on just, I guess, the cliche of working smarter, not harder. When I moved to Kentucky, before I was at a church where I worked about, average a minimum of around 50 plus hours, and could be anywhere close to 70. And I came to the church in Kentucky, and they said, well, you can't work more than around 40 hours a week. And I'm like, is this a joke? Like, how is that going to happen? And they said, no, we really want our people to win at home. So I had to learn to just work smarter, and I learned to work faster. And then I learned ultimately to rest. And as I look at lives and I talk to people and I counsel people, I realize that like people live in a rest deficit. And, if you can think about it, I've already talked about the best part of the brisket is letting it rest, and as I continue to look at people's lives, I'm like, man, if you don't rest and you have a rest deficit, then like it's going to affect how you are just with yourself. It's going to affect your own personal health. It's going to affect your relationships with other people. If you're married, it's going to affect your relationship with your wives. If you're single, I just noticed the lack of rest makes you miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And you need any further proof of that, just pull up a political idea on Facebook and see how that flies. We're just on edge.
For sure.
Yeah, we've lost the ability just to take a deep breath. And so I continue to explore that. I explored it biblically. I looked all the way back to the Old Testament about the idea of Sabbath. And then I was confronted with it here with a coworker, and we talked about it from a biblical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of rest does not mean sit on your butt and do nothing. As a matter of fact, for most people, if they did that, that's only going to frustrate them. They're just going to think about the things they could be doing. But then we studied it and from the concept of rest meaning an activity that you did to create restfulness. Okay. So I started, asking questions and thinking about it. And then the guy looked at me and he goes, what do you do, Adaryll, that creates rest? And I said, to create rest for myself, I barbecue. He goes, I was waiting for you to think that out. He goes, I wasn't going to tell you. Yes, for you, when you're behind that barbecue pit, you are resting. You are creating rest. So you need to do that as much as you can because you create a state of restfulness for yourself. And that's how you get your rest.
So to you, resting doesn't necessarily mean physically sleep type thing. This means doing something that your mind is totally at ease and passionate and loving to do. And that is putting your mind and kind of soul and body in a state of rest, right?
Absolutely. And Keith,
Okay.
when we talked about this today, I was sitting with a lady who is an interior designer. We're looking at doing some things at our home. And she said, and she's an older lady. And she goes, that's why I do what I do. Because to me, interior design is not even work. It's just total fun. She goes, I never like to stop doing what I'm doing. It's just fun. It's really not work at all. And she's at a point financially where she can just do what she wants and not do what she doesn't want. And, most people aren't in that position. But I think there are people that I've met who have jobs that are just absolutely just fun, and they have rest. I love doing ministry and I loved helping people, but I could never really say that, that it didn't create stressful situations. I mean, I had situations where I was dealing with some pretty high intensity stuff. People, not having money to pay their electric bills, people on drugs, people, in bad marriages. So that wasn't always restful. And sometimes I sit in a counseling session and listen to people and give them advice, and they just say, nope, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, okay, well,
thanks for coming in.
I guess, thanks, for wasting my time. And I told my wife, when I really started getting into the barbecuing, she goes, why do you like this so much? I said, it's amazing. I get online, I find a recipe, and the food does exactly what I tell it to do. It's amazing. It just refreshes my soul. And so this is kind of the process by which I realized that creates rest for me. I love traveling. And I know a lot of people like travel for work. I travel for work with my wife, but I don't get too stressed out about it. It's just fun. It refreshes my spirit. And so I'm trying to learn how to do more things that creates rest, because that to me, is the interpretation of what rest means. And we need to be pretty obedient to that. If not, we're going to really screw up ourselves and screw up other people. And so, that's kind of just something I've been working on for the past, 6-7 years, just learning about what rest means. I'm not the kind of person who's going to find sitting in a hammock to be fun. I'm an extrovert. I need to be around people, laughing with my boys and, you guys, it's so good to be on here with you. This is the kind of
We're
stuff
glad you're here, bud.
So it's not going to do me any good to go off by myself in the woods on a hammock. That's not rest. I'm going to end up more stressed out when I come back.
Yeah.
So find the activity that you love that refreshes you and let that be your restfulness activity.
Now, you've been doing something else pretty cool that's part of this whole rest thing. Tell us a little bit about your nationwide hunt here.
Oh, man, this is such a fun story. So my wife she's very good in her business, and and she's very determined in all things. And so she has this thing, her bucket list, and she has this crazy bucket list of crazy things she wants to do. And whenever she can do it, she does it. And so a lot of times her job will call her off to go somewhere crazy and do some stuff. And while she's there, she'll just do something on her bucket list, So she comes back from, we were in Hawaii for a work trip. And it sounds fantastic, but after that Hawaii trip, I was super stressed out. Like, it was just some stuff happened, and they just laid out a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to help my wife do this. And Hawaii was not a restful trip for me the first time I went. And she goes, you just really need to get serious about this bucket list thing like I'm doing. And I said, okay, well, I've thought about it, and I think what I'd like to do is play my saxophone in all 50 states. I've been playing saxophone for 38 years now. And I said, I want to play in all 50 states, and you record my playing. And she goes, okay, that's great. Now, interestingly, at the time I came up with that bucket list, I'd already played through, jazz band at Texas Tech and some other things that I've done. I'd already played in 38 states. And so I think my wife thought, okay, great. You got 12 states to go. You're going to kill it. And I was like, no, I'm going to start now. So we're at 0. And
Awesome.
She's like, she goes, we just left Hawaii. And I said, well, I guess we'll have to go back.
Yeah, darn.
I know. So we actually did just go back this year, and it was awesome. So
you played it by Pearl Harbor, didn't you?
Yeah, it was amazing.
That.
Absolutely amazing. Surreal. No matter what anybody tells you about Pearl Harbor, no matter how anybody hypes it up, they cannot overhype it. absolutely amazing.
I completely agree.
For me, I'd been to Japan and I'd heard, their stories. I love history. I love studying. The emperor of Japan at the time was crazy. And really, I mean, it's no matter how you feel about the bomb at that time, he was not willing to give up Japan, even though the people were willing to surrender. He was not. And the bomb was, I don't want to say what I'm thinking about it, but it had to happen. But just the way they came on, man, go to Pearl Harbor, do the trip, do the videos. It blew me away. So
definitely worth it.
My spirit, man, when I came out of that place, I'm just like, I was grateful for the United States. I was grateful for Japan. I'm grateful for how we now have a relationship between our countries that's so good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And so then at the very end is when I played the song outside of the center, and it was it's pretty interesting. I don't know how much of the video stayed, but people just stopped what they were doing and listened and clapped, and I don't know, you just feel like a different human being when you're there at the Pearl Harbor place. Yeah. So
I'll tell you, my visit to Pearl Harbor happened on September 10th, 2001.
Oh my goodness.
The day before September 11th. Yeah.
Wow.
And they were talking about the, largest attack on U.S. soil at the time and this and that. And then the next day, you talk about surreal. So,
wow.
Yeah. But Pearl Harbor is a humbling place. So yes, definitely recommend everybody that has a chance to go see that. There's even stories about the sailors who survived the attack. They actually have special ceremonies where they want to be buried with their brothers, and they will bury them in the Arizona. Wow. I think that's amazing.
I saw some pictures of that, man. It's just unbelievable. And how they, you think, man, I made it out, and not those guys. They wonder why they made it and their brothers didn't.
Exactly. They lived with that for decades,
Yeah. So it's an absolutely great place. I was able to go with my 15-year-old son, and, again, I love history, and we were talking about history today. I said, he took a class this year in school, and he's like, man, I never want to do that class again. It was too much history. And I said, you know what? I think in the end, those who study history will be the masters, and those who don't study history will be the slaves. You got to know history.
Think about the generation that is slowly forgetting September 11th. Even, I mean, you're right. It's scary to think that you've got to keep those things intact to make sure the integrity of your country and humanity is there. Really,
absolutely.
Didn't get to where we were without going there. So
the knowledge of history is power. My wife and I are big fans of the musical Hamilton, and we went, and she just fell in love with it. It is the greatest performance of really any performing art that we've seen, really performing or visual. It's just absolutely amazing. So one of the first things I wanted to do was to check out the history. So I got the book by Rob Chernow that Lin-Manuel Miranda read to create Hamilton. And I did it on Audible. It's a 36-hour book on Audible, and I laughed, I cried. It's crazy. So if you ever want to
now, what was the name of that? Repeat that one more time.
It's just Hamilton by Rob Chernow, Chernow. He's also done one on Washington and I think on Grant. But yeah, I did that, and just to get the history and then to see what all the things that happened made the musical come more alive. Just to see also not only what happened in history, but how Lin-Manuel kind of took the history and made a musical out of it, and he honored history so well. I just thought it was fantastic. So
that's awesome.
We a whole new world opens up to us when we know the history behind things. The musical is fantastic. It's probably one of the better musicals that's ever been. But how Lin-Manuel honored the history and how he studied the history and was inspired enough by the history to make this musical makes it even better. And so I told my son, I said, the knowledge of history is power. And
totally.
Yeah. So parenting.
That's awesome.
Who'd have thunk it? I can't believe I'm a parent.
Hey, we understand that. Yeah, we understand that. Hey folks, Keith here again. Listen, back in episode 21, we talked about one of our favorite products called Bespoke Post. And just as a friendly reminder, our listeners get an exclusive 20% discount when they subscribe by using our code TZONE20, TZONE20. So go on to www.bespokepost.com, BESPOKEPOST.com, and subscribe today. Adaryll, you know what? You better be on some more because this is fun.
Oh man, yeah.
We hope you come on some more. Seriously, this is a blast.
Now I'm understanding that you guys need to get some listeners from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit.
Okay.
You've experienced this,
oh,
right?
Oh gosh, yeah. Now I'm gonna go off on Louisiana, and then I'm gonna tell all my friends from Louisiana to listen so they can be offended, because that's what friends do. I mean,
that's right. That's what we're here for.
To love
right?
one another is to offend. Anyway, so let's see. My first Louisiana story. In New Orleans where I lived, there's this. Is it no left turn rule? I think it's no left. It's the Napoleonic Code, which is just ridiculous. The policeman can be quite interesting. It's just a very, you got the Huey Long Bridge. Huey Long was a crooked politician, and the actual bridge is crooked. They started from Yes, they started from each end, and then by the time they got in the middle, it wasn't together. So you're on this bridge. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Let's see. Louisiana politics. Okay, I'm going to talk politics because, we think politics and, you see stuff and you're like, it's really dirty. But here's a typical Louisiana political ad and response. So let's say Keith and I are running for an office, and Keith would start off and he'd say, I'm Keith. You don't want to vote for Adaryll. Adaryll's been in jail. He's been indicted 5 times. Vote for me. And then I get back on and I'll be like, you heard my opponent Keith say that I've been in jail 5 times. I've only been in jail 3 times. Keith is a liar. Do you want to vote for a liar? That's Louisiana politics, man. I mean, my wife would just, we just look at each other and be like, is this really happening? This is real.
Oh my gosh.
We are both pretty healthy eaters nowadays, but we weren't always that way. And we one time, early in our time there, went to McDonald's, and we drove up to the drive-through window, and this is what we heard. Welcome to McDonald's, and my wife goes, what? And the voice said, welcome to McDonald's, and my wife goes, what? Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order? And we're like, oh my goodness, what have we done? Now, most Louisianans would be very offended by the movie The Waterboy, especially Farmer Fran, another game. Another game. But sure enough, there are Farmer Frans everywhere around Louisiana. Let's see. Driving from Louisiana to Dallas one trip, when my wife and I were crazy enough to do that, we came to a gas station in Lafayette where we found something that we've never seen at any gas station before or since, and that was alligator on a stick.
Really? No way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that happened.
It's good eats, huh?
I mean, I can make up stories, but the truth is just so much better. This is Louisiana, man. It's a crazy place. Oh. We went to church. I'll give you 2 more. Okay, we're going to Burger King for breakfast, and they have all these breakfast sandwiches, and they had no bread. We're like, how do you?
Wow.
But we don't understand. Oh no, I'm sorry. I said 2. It's 3. We went to Church's Chicken. They had no chicken.
It was just church.
And then, a really bad church. I'm serious. This could be his own podcast. I keep saying I only have one more, but they keep coming. Right across the street from where I went to grad school. Now, my grad school, I went to seminary. That's a biblical school. Mm-hmm. And right across the street, what did we have but a drive-through daiquiri shop? Oh, yeah. drive through.
I'm convinced there's no zoning laws in Louisiana because you see a lot of that stuff. So.
Can't be.
Oh gosh, yeah,
It's true.
And finally, one day, my wife and I, and on our budget, we're really excited. We're going to have a great dinner. This is serious. We're going to have Pizza Hut. This is a special thing because we were poor, we weren't poor. We were so poor, we couldn't afford the OR. So we're so excited. That's right. We're going to get Pizza Hut. We call over Pizza Hut and I said, all right, well, I like a meat lover's pizza. She says, all we have is pork. She said, all we have is pork, but she said, all it has pork. And I said, okay, well, then I'll go ahead and have maybe a pepperoni. I mean, I wasn't thinking that clearly. And she just goes, all we got is pork. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, think quick, what's pork meat? I'm like, I guess just sausage. She goes, all we have is pork. Like, we don't have cheese. We don't have tomato sauce.
Oh my gosh. They don't even have any of it. Oh my gosh.
So
and why answer the phone?
Exactly.
No kidding.
My wife
answer the phone and say, I'm sorry, we're closed.
So you guys know me and you know how crazy I can be. My wife can be very level-headed until she's not. And so to have her tell this story is even more humorous and the frustration. She's like, what is happening? I don't understand. What is this place? On a more serious and sad note, but just when I went to New Orleans, I left New Orleans about 2 or 3 years before Katrina. And they did a news story saying that you would lose basically around $250 per person in auto repairs because of how bad the potholes were. And they did a story on it. And the mayor at the time says, well, we don't have good road infrastructure because we put all our money into our levees because, if there's a hurricane and the levees broke, then we'd all be dead, And so Katrina and Rita hit. And don't you know, the mayor got up on TV and said, well, we don't have enough money for our levees because we put so much money into our road infrastructure.
No way.
That happened. So,
wow.
So forget blaming the president or FEMA and all that stuff. It's a lot of traditional corruption. That's Louisiana. Oh, wow. I dare somebody to tell me I'm wrong because I lived it.
Yeah, you've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. So hopefully some Louisianans can get on here and get their lives right.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Get right with yourselves and join us. Join us, Louisiana.
Adaryll, you were talking about making gumbo and you were trying to perfect that. And I still have to say the best bowl of gumbo I've ever had was at the LSU Student Union when we were there for district convention. Those ladies made that bowl of gumbo of love. It was awesome. I still think it's the best I've ever had.
Wow. Baton Rouge is a cool place.
Yeah, Baton Rouge is cool. The best red beans and rice I ever had was on our seminary campus. People would come from off campus to have it. Some great people cooking there. And then Steve, the LSU thing, I think it was kind of a pre-meeting, and I'm not sure if you were there or not, but they had a meeting for us there before they had their big meeting for everybody. And they brought a hot donut. I never had, or even heard of the idea of a Krispy Kreme or whatever else. And I don't think it was Krispy Kreme, but I put this donut in my mouth and it just melted. I'm like, what just happened? Just hot. I got to try again, And before you knew, I'd eaten like 8, and then
what kind of magic is this?
What kind of voodoo is this?
That's hilarious.
That was awesome.
Yeah, so I'll give them that. I like to give the LSU folks a hard time when I was a district officer and all that fun stuff. But they got the food unlocked over there in Red Stick, Louisiana.
I tell you, and the good thing about it is Adaryll, by doing Louisiana, has already started our joke session. It sounds like.
Absolutely. There you go.
Yeah, but before we start, though, I wanted to let you know that our teenage correspondent is back from his Grody to the Max experience.
Oh, yes.
And he's going to share with us. So, Adaryll, what we do each week is we either have a teenage correspondent teach us a word or phrase, but lately we've been reversing that, and we are teaching these guys 80s phrases.
Oh, that's so good.
And they have to try it on their friends and then report back to us. So our teenage correspondent has had a baseball camp this week. And so why don't you share with us a little bit about what happened, buddy? I'm sorry, our teenage correspondent and Adaryll, you all have met in Seattle, right?
Yes, in Seattle. Yes, and there was a
random.
You got to tell that story.
Oh yeah, we do. That's we're saving that for the next episode for sure. Okay, so what happened? What happened, teenage correspondent?
All right, so I was at that baseball camp, and we went up to hit. And so when I went up to the plate, he threw the pitch, and the first thing I did was just do a 360 and just fell on the ground. So I got up and I said, "Oh my gosh, that was grody to the max." Literally, everyone was just staring at me like,
What?
Are you retarded? For like 20 seconds, and then just continued with their conversation.
And there you go.
And you have us to thank for that. So that's great.
Yes, you do. Nice job, buddy. All right, so we got to think of other things to make you do it count.
Or the coolest.
Awesome.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Thanks for your feedback, buddy.
No problem.
All right, talk to you soon.
See you.
You're now the weirdo on the baseball team. Congratulations.
So what you got for us, Noel?
You know what ET is short for?
I have no idea.
Because he's got little tiny legs.
Okay. I did not see that one coming. That was good.
I love that. So, hey, guys, why can't T-Rexes clap their hands?
Why can't T-Rexes clap their hands? Because they're extinct.
Because they're extinct. Yep. Damn it.
No, for the win.
You know what sucks? Like,
Okay.
if I give too much time for y'all to respond, then you'll get it. And so
Yeah, you just need to answer it quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
tell me.
where did Noah store the bees on the ark?
Where did Noah store the bees on the ark? I don't know.
In the archives.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh man, I saw that. That was one of those on Facebook. You know the one where it has the dog with his mouth open. That was one of those, and I just loved it. So I had to
That's
share
a
it.
growler, man.
Adaryll, do you have any final jokes? You've done a whole Louisiana list. Anything else you got?
you know, Louisiana about tapped me out. I'm racking my
I bet.
brain trying to.
That was enough. My stomach hurts from laughing, so I think we're good, bro. was
Okay,
good.
I'll give you one. How about this one? I'm in Kentucky. Why did the Clydesdale give the pony a glass of water?
Why the Clydesdale get the pony?
no clue.
I don't know why.
Because he was a little horse.
Nice one, Adaryll.
That's perfect.
That is a perfect Kentucky. Okay, so speaking of Kentucky, I have to ask you all this. So, have you all seen that map? I don't know if I shared this with you,
Yes,
Adaryll, or if you've
I
seen
saw
this.
that.
Have you seen that of the chef with the chicken on the plate?
I was offended. Look, that joke that hurt my feelings. Let me tell you why. Because
Why?
not because of what you would think, but because here I am, a native Texan, and I had my grandmother's fried chicken, I had my family's fried chicken. Like, some of the best fried chicken in the world is in Texas. Like, okay, now Kentucky's gonna hate me, but the chicken here is awful.
It offends you because the food is not actually
Yes.
the chicken's not.
And so, like,
yeah, all right.
so I'm looking at the map and it's like, look, he's serving chicken in Kentucky. I'm like, of all the places to serve chicken, I wish the chef could serve some chicken here because the KFC is awful. That's all we got. It's terrible. I go home to Texas for good chicken. Come on, man.
That's bad. And see, my perception was completely off then because I thought that would be like the gold standard.
No, it's awful. It's so bad.
Huh.
Oh man. Well, we learned something.
And I would never take anyone for chicken here. Like,
Go to Adaryll's for the good smoked meats. Come to Texas for
There you
chicken.
go.
Now we got it. This is so backwards, but
the
we got
things you
this.
know. The things you know.
That's right. The more you know, right? Adaryll, man, this has been a blast. Thank you. Come join us some more, okay?
I love
Yeah,
to, guys.
definitely.
Great to hear all of your voices again.
Yeah, you too, bud. And so Noel, Steve, who wants to finish this off?
Go ahead,
Okay.
Steve.
Hey, well, we enjoyed it. Adaryll, thanks again for joining us. We love you, and definitely,
Love you too.
great to talk to you and share some great stories.
Absolutely.
To all of our listeners, thank you.
Yeah.
We hope to see you all back soon.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Testosterone Zone. We sure had a blast visiting with you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, leave us some feedback, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
All Testosterone podcast episodes are written and produced by Noel, Keith, and Steve unless otherwise noted.
The opinions expressed in the Testosterone podcast are our own and not those of our employers, families, parents, kids, dogs, cats, your mom, or any other entity Noel, Keith, or Steve are affiliated with now, in the past, or in the future, or ever.
So who's leading this one? Oh, we're going already.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing the Noel effect. You know, he
We're
catches
led.
the little sound bites at the beginning. I like it.
We'll just
Consider yourself led. Let's go.
We are, yeah. Lead it on, oh Noel.
What are we doing? Episode 24?
We don't even know. We're not even going to call this an episode number. We're just going to say this edition because we don't know where it's going to fit.
All right. This edition of the Testosterone podcast now begins.